What's up, guys? Welcome to the David F. Haas podcast. I'm the host, David F. Haas, in the studio solo. Well, Zach's here too, but he's not going to be on. So today's podcast is actually, I think, going to be really beneficial because I've come to this realization, and I've always kind of known this, but I'm just seeing it differently. And this is kind of like what happens with spiritual growth or evolution, is that you start to see things differently. Dr. David Hawkins is one of my mentors, and I can read his books and they hit completely differently, because I've just evolved as a person. I've grown spiritually. And so a chapter that before seemed like Chinese when I was reading it, I start to understand it a little bit more. And so this podcast is about the fact that everything is happening for you. And this is like a lot of like spiritual, like kind of like, I don't know, the word is like talk, you're just hearing this, and, the universe is acting for you. You can manifest whatever it is that you want. And I think a lot of people like to say that, but they're not fully understanding what that actually means. And the realization that I had recently is that I can have whatever I want, right? And I was just kind of like shown this through like golf. Believe it or not, it was like I set the intention to break 80 in golf, and then it wasn't work. It wasn't, I was doing things, of course. I was practicing, I was taking lessons, I was doing all that stuff, but it was like, it just all unfolded for me. Every awareness that I needed, everything that I needed was just shown to me. New coaches, new techniques, new mindsets around the game, like literally to the point where it was like, I got on a call with my engineer and we started talking about golf, and he was giving me tips on how to overcome the stress of golf. And then my buddy Tony's coming into my shop I was helping with some marketing stuff, and I was like, oh, this is a perfect guy to talk about stress, because he used to be a SWAT team officer. And so it's like, it's all just unfolding. So then when you really begin to see that, you can recognize, oh, I can have any single thing that you want or anything that you intend to become. It's 100% available to you. It's just a matter of like where you're actually putting your energy. And so when it was shown to me that, hey, I can have whatever I want, it's like I wanted to build a coaching business, happened. I wanted to own a bar or restaurant, happened. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, happened. And so the only time that the things that I haven't manifested in my life is when my focus has just been spread thin. And so once I realized like, oh, I can have anything I want. So now it's like where I'm going now is like I'm just setting the intention to make a fuck ton of money, which is hilarious, because talking about intentions, like one of the things I realized in spiritual growth was that I can step out of the wanting of money. And because of that, I've been in this like really messed up situation where I wasn't really understanding money, and I didn't understand the relationship between spirituality and making money, but it all just clicked because I had the intention to continue to evolve spiritually. And one of the things that had to happen for me to evolve spiritually is for me to check the box of money. And every single time that I get into like these cash crunches or whatever they're called, it's like there's a lesson to be learned. And so this is just showing me that, and you're benefiting from my realizations that whatever it is that you want will come flowing into your life, and the universe will help you get there really quickly. Okay, so how is the universe or God or infinite intelligence or source power, whatever it is that you want to call it, working for you? And this is the realization that I came to, is that everything is about evolution, right? It's like we are, as a species, and you can look at other species, are continuing to evolve to make our lives better. Right. And so it's like when I started thinking about this concept, I'm like, well, what animals have evolved to make their lives easier? And for some reason, the deep sea anglerfish came into my awareness. And so what is the deep sea anglerfish? I had to Google the name of it. I didn't just know this off the top of my head. So I Google it, and it's this fish that has essentially developed like a little rod with a little light in front of it. And it is essentially, it's an anglerfish because it's like this little mini fishing rod. And so it shines this light on this rod, and fish come to get it. And then the anglerfish eats the smaller fish. And so that fish, through a process, an unconscious process, which is evolution, evolved so that it would get more food. and its life would be easier. Before it evolved to a point where it had the little rod and had the little light, getting fish was probably pretty difficult. It had to swim around, it had to chase them down, had to do all these things. Now it just sits silently, wiggles the little thing, the fish come right to it, and it eats. And it's like, well, what was the mechanism that created that sense of ease for the fish? Well, it's the mechanism of evolution, or you could call it the unfoldment of the universe. Whatever it may be, this is just proof that that energy is the energy that is working for you to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve in this life. And so when you think about that with respect to like the human species, so we continue to evolve, things continue to happen, new realizations, new awarenesses, new technologies continue to happen to get us to this point where we're living like this pretty comfortable life right now. Yeah, sure, there's people that are super rich and there's people that are super poor, but we're just talking in general, in Canada, North America, all first world countries, we are living a pretty good life. Like, you go to the grocery store and food is there. We have transportation. We have a roof overhead. We have heat. We have air conditioning. It's like we have clean water. It's like we've gotten to this place where everything that we need has gotten pretty easy. Okay. And so the next evolution for the human species will be the evolution of consciousness. We've kind of gone as far as we can go with respect to comfort. It's like once all your basic needs are met, then everything over and above that is all just kind of like additional. It's like sure, you could get to a point where you have private planes and Ferraris and all that stuff, but it's all just extra. It's not really changing the way that you experience comfort, let's just say. Okay. And so when we recognize that, well, how do we begin to become even more like, how do we get to a place where we become more comfortable or more enjoying of life? So like, if you think back just a fucking 100 years, we were still riding horse and buggy, right? And so it's like, how uncomfortable was that life? It's like the roads were all fucked up. There was ruts in the roads. The horses would break their fucking legs and the wagon wheels would fall off. And the horses are shitting in your face. It was like terrible to like get from point A to point B. And look how much more comfortable we've become. And so that mechanism of evolution, of growth, is still happening. But now it's happening to us with respect to our level of consciousness. And the next evolution for us will be to step out of ego patterns. And so all ego patterns are the mechanisms that the ego, which is essentially just the mind, has created to protect us from feeling pain. And so when we begin to uncover those mechanisms, we will learn that those mechanisms of the mind are the things that are limiting us most. Those are the things that, for example, let's use my own example. Like, lack of focus is a mechanism that my mind created to like look at multiple different ideas all at once, so that I never had to experience the pain of kind of going all in on one thing, right? And so if you never go all in on one thing, you never kind of really fail. You kind of have like these little micro failures, but it's never like this giant failure. Like, hey, you went all in on that and it failed. I never had to deal with that pain. So the lack of focus was an unconscious mechanism that I created to protect myself from the pain of failure. And it's worked fabulously, right? And so now in that recognition, what I've been shifting at Lungo Vita and in the work that I do, even the podcast and all this, is like, I'm getting to get laser-like focused on one thing. And if failure comes, so be it. I have the awareness that I will be able to handle any failure that comes my way. And so this is having the courage to recognize what it is that we're avoiding, and then choosing to move beyond the mechanisms of the mind and face whatever it is that we may face, or the fear that we may face it. And then what you will find when you make that decision to go down that path, when you say, like right now I'm going down the path at Lungo Vita, we're launching our corporate retreat programs, and we kind of believe that this is the thing that's going to kind of propel us to where we want to be, which is to be a retreat center. And we think we're going to do it with corporate retreats, and so that's the path that we're going down. So now what will happen is, as I begin to walk down that road, the universe, God, will continue to show me everything that is required for me to become successful at that thing. the ego will try and pull me off that course, right? Because the ego is fearful of failure. It's fearful of putting all your eggs in one basket. Whatever it may be, the ego is just avoiding pain at all costs. And so the evolution will be to recognize how the ego is protecting me and to continue to move forward in a place of surrender and trust of God. For me, it's God or the universe, that the universe is working for me so that I can achieve and become everything that I need to become. And when you really begin to really, truly, fully trust that, you will recognize how often that energy, that knowledge, that I guess the best way to describe it is the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present energy of God, how present it is in your life. And by becoming focused, or by really stepping into what it is that you want to become, you will see all of the ways in which you basically overlooked all of that help from that power, right? And so what does this mean, and how do you put it into place, I guess, is the question. Well, I think step one is you need to begin recognizing that there is something that you want to become or something that you want to achieve. And you need to understand all of the mechanisms that mind has created that are preventing you from getting that, right? So it's like, for example, it's like one of my main things that I wanted for my whole entire life was to be insanely rich. And then I did a bunch of work and I recognized that I could let go of that wanting, and then it would flow into my life, and it worked to a point. But now I'm like, wait a second, I don't need to want it. This is part of letting go of outcomes, but I can still go after it. And it's not even about going after it. It's just about, I can still have that as an intention, right? To move to a place of complete financial freedom. I can have that intention. I can let go of any outcome so that I'm not stressed out about it. I'm like doing it with ease and flow. Whereas before, if I didn't achieve it, I was miserable, right? And so now I'm moving forward with I'm like, hey, if it comes, great. If it doesn't, I'm fine too, right? But it doesn't mean I'm going to stop moving forward. So that was what was required. That's what God showed me that I needed to overcome in order to achieve the thing that I wanted to achieve. Now, it sucks that this is coming to me at 46. I wish I would have had it at 26, but so be it. My guess is that at 26, I probably wouldn't have been ready for a higher level of wealth. I probably would have drank myself to death or something along those lines, right? Would have slept with the wrong woman and some guy would have murdered me or something. I don't know what would have happened, but basically it was like I wasn't ready is what that all-knowing power knew. And so I wasn't able to overcome it. But now I'm at this place where it's like I'm willing to deal with whatever comes my way. And so I had this, now I'm realigning with this goal of like, hey, just make this business super profitable because there's so much good that comes out of that. I'm removing myself from all debt and like all of these great things. It's like it's all coming into my life. But then what happens is like I start getting really into golf. I'm running my coaching business. More coaching clients start coming to me, which basically waves that thing in front of me, which is like, hey, here's a bunch of money and it's right here. But in order to stay focused on that one thing, I have to let go of the temporary satisfaction of getting some money from new coaching clients, and I have to focus all of my energy on being focused on Lungo Vita and that one thing that I want, which is for Lungo Vita to be insanely profitable. And not just because I want the money, I don't actually even care about the money, but I want what comes with the money, which is the ability to make Lungo Vita the most amazing place possible, attract people from all over the world so they can experience the power of this work, employ a bunch of people so that they have good lives, give back to the community. There's just so much good that comes from it. And so that's what I'm going after now, right? And because of that, I'm just being shown over and over and over again, everything that I have acquired, everything that I need is continuing to come in my life. And now it only came from two things. One, the recognition of how I was avoiding, how the mechanism of the mind was protecting me from avoiding pain, the pain of failure, for example, in my case. And then the second was I had to get really, truly aligned with the thing that I wanted to achieve and wanted to become. And then I had to put all of my energy and intention on that one thing. And when I get focused on that one thing, as I walk down that path, every single thing that is required for me to achieve that goal will just come flooding into my awareness. And when you're when you're not on that path, you're not in the field, right? Once you get into the field of doing whatever it is that you want to do, like for example in golf, I stepped into the field of being a good golfer. Once I did that, it's like everything that I needed to become a good golfer flooded into my awareness, right? It's because I was in the field of being a good golfer. But the problem that most people have, including myself, is that we step into multiple fields, right? And so we're just being pulled in too many directions. If you look at all of the most successful people in the world, at anything they do, they were laser-like focused on one thing. They were in the field. But then we have to have the awareness of how the universe is helping us and just notice it, right? So every time we get into this awareness, we just want to say, oh my God, thank you. Thank you, universe. Like I was just talking to Zach today before we got onto this podcast. One of the awarenesses that came to me recently is that like I've become an amazing marketer, right? It's like I just fully get marketing. It just hit me like I got a flood of information. I call it like the flash. Like when you get the flash, it's like you can see entire business concepts in a second. And that's what happened. I just got the flash and I was like, oh my God, it's like, this is exactly what I needed to accelerate my business forward. Right? That's what I needed to see. And I haven't been able to see that until I stepped into the field of launching corporate retreats at Lungo Vita. Right. And so this is the power that is available to every single one of us. And I heard my whole entire life from every single person that stood up on a stage and accepted an award, or every business owner, is that you can have whatever you want. And I didn't fully get it until this point. And I don't know if I did a really great job of kind of articulating to you what it is that happened for me. But if I'm just kind of trying to reflect back on the last 17 minutes, is I had to let go of the protections of the mind. I had to become aware of the protections of the mind. I had to let go of the pain that the mind was protecting me from, right? I had to get insanely aligned with what it is that I wanted, right? I had to let go of the expectation of that thing ever coming into my life. And I had to turn over whether that thing came into my life or not to God or to the universe, which is surrender, right? And so I guess that would really sum it all up. And so moving forward, this is the way I look at it. Let's just use the corporate retreats thing at Lungo Vita. I'm kind of going all in on corporate retreats. I'm laser-like focused on corporate retreats at Lungo Vita. I trust that the universe is going to give me everything that I need in order for that to come into fruition. And even if it doesn't, I recognize that I'm probably learning something that is required to make Lungo Vita successful in other areas, right? So it's just like it's a place of complete surrender. And I trust that while I stay in this field, every skill, every challenge is all coming to me and happening for me to create greater levels of evolution, greater levels of consciousness, greater levels of surrender, greater levels of removal from ego and connection to higher self, because that is the mechanism of God. That is the mechanism of evolution. That is the mechanism of the universe. We are all just a part of this unfoldment. And if you can get aligned with that unfoldment, it's like stepping into like the Gulf Stream, right? You don't have to swim very hard, right? Look at the anglerfish. He went from swimming and killing himself and struggling to just sitting still and dangling a thing and getting everything that he wanted. And this is what happens with spiritual growth. This is what happens. We can just sit back, and this is like metaphorically, you're still doing stuff, but it doesn't feel, there's no longer the stress and everything. It's like, it feels like you're just sitting back, right? It feels like you're not doing it. Like when I breaking 80 in golf, it didn't feel like work. It was just fun, and I was just enjoying it. Yeah, there were some moments of struggle, but those struggles that ever came led me closer to the goal of achieving it, right? And so it's just like, it all just flows. You've stepped into the flow or the unfoldment of the universe. And when you begin noticing it, I guess would be like the 7th step, because I think I got 6 steps. When you begin noticing it, the noticing of how the universe is working for you builds your confidence in God or in the universe. The more confidence that you have, the more that you believe, the more that you believe, the more that you achieve. And that is essentially the mechanism of spiritual growth. That is essentially the mechanism of universal evolution. Whatever it is we want to call it, I could probably coin it. So anyways, I know that was like a rant, but hopefully you got what you needed out of it. So everything is happening for you. Just remember that. And if you really, truly step into that, you will see that every single thing, even the bad, is happening for you. I'll give you an example. It's like Lungo Vito is running out of money, right? And I sat down and I did what I do. I meditated, I talked to God, and I said, what is going on with this cash crunch? And the answer I received is, what cash crunch? It's only a cash crunch from the mechanism of the mind thinking that there is not enough. And the second I saw that awareness, it was like, oh, there's money here, there's money here, there's money here. And I just pulled it. And that cash crunch was gone, right? And it's going to continue to be gone as I launch this new corporate program. And my guess is we're going to step into some crazy abundance and crazy flow out there. And Lungo Vita is going to be known all over the world, and people from all over the world are going to come to experience what it is that we have to offer. That is where I'm guessing we're going, but I also have no expectation. So hope that helped. Thanks for taking time to listen. If you liked it at all, hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up. That really helps us. And if you know someone that would benefit from this podcast, that this is what this is all about, just share it over to them and give them a chance to have a listen. Thanks for taking time. See you again next Sunday.